Okay, guys, starting this series as I'm now a therapist, I really kind of want to share my experience with OCD. I think that some of the most powerful stories that we have to share are our own, and it can go a long way to help clients when they know that you've had similar experiences to them, especially for clients with OCD, I would say. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but it is the disease of doubt, if you will. So it's really hard for people to sometimes even believe they have OCD, or they're like, I actually don't have OCD. I'm just making all of this up. What if, what if, what if, what if, what if? So having someone who's experienced that reality is really helpful, I think, in their healing journey. And obviously, like, community and relationships to people and co-regulation is very helpful in general. But this video specifically, I wanted to talk about my earliest memories of OCD, and I will eventually talk about one of my most severe episodes of OCD, which led to being treated outpatient very shortly by the OCD Institute. I specifically was like, I need someone with OCD. I figured it out. This is what I'm experiencing. That was very short-lived, and I'll get into that again more so on a lot of things later. But I wanted to, again, talk about my earliest memories because I think this is also just really validating for people to hear. I mean, I've said my intrusive thoughts out loud to some people and they were like, holy shit, like that made me feel so much better. Like I've had that thought and like I felt like a horrible person for having that thought. I'm like, imagine having that thought like over and over and over again. But my earliest memories were I was a little girl, no idea the age. I just remember I would be playing with my friends and I would have this thought, like a harm OCD thought that was like, I tried to kill you. And that thought would come out of nowhere. And I remember, which is very telling of the rest of my life, now being able to connect these dots, I remember feeling frozen in my body. So the thought scared the living shit out of me, basically, when I was a kid. And even as an adult, when I tell you these stories, you're gonna think, what the fuck? And I remember feeling like very frozen in my body. And now being able to connect these dots of like the earliest memories of me having a thought that scared the shit out of me, like over identifying and enmeshing with that thought and then feeling completely frozen in my body makes so much sense as to how I felt the majority of my life and what happens to me when I perceive threats. Now, as a little aside, people with OCD, typically it's being said that they might have overactive amygdalas. So the amygdala in your brain is like the fear center, right? Perceives threats. So people with OCD typically have much more sensitive or overactive amygdalas. So instead of like just the other person with a less active amygdala who's going to be like what? That was a crazy thought. These people are going to be like, holy shit, this is a fucking threat. And the brain is going to address that threat. And as a therapist now, and someone that works with clients from a nervous system perspective and with, provides nervous system regulation tools based on the experiences that they're having, it is very important to me to approach OCD from a physiological standpoint. And also now I'm studying IFS, internal family systems, for OCD. So anyways, I'd have these thoughts when I was little, and I remember being like, I didn't want to move. Like I physically would shut down because what the brain does is be like, okay, you have this thought, I tried to kill you. You're like a little kid. You're like, holy shit, I'm capable of trying to kill someone. What? And then your brain now automatically is like looking for evidence that you're actually doing that. And it's trying to protect you, meaning, okay, so I'd have this thought, I tried to kill you. Then I would feel like also the need to like tell people that I had these thoughts because I was just feeling so guilty and ashamed of them. But these would be like my poor little friends at the time. So like, what the fuck, those poor things. But that's a story for another day, or that part of the story. It's still hard to digest. But I would then feel frozen in my body because my brain would say, oh, you have this thought, now you moved your hand. I mean, just like, let's just say my hand was like on my body, have the thought I tried to kill you, and then I go like this. That was evidence that I was trying to kill you even further in my little brain and body back then. Like, how fucking wild is that? And that's what happens with OCD. So I would have the thought, I would be afraid to move, and my nervous system would enter this state. definitely sympathetic, like panic, fear, right, from these intrusive thoughts. But I think over time, what happened, and I have some notes here from my nervous system course, is, and I'm going to show you the ring from this course at some point of the different nervous system states, because I think it's super helpful for people to see that. Most people know parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, and sympathetic, which is fight or flight. Most people are very familiar now with the terms fight or flight. They're kind of everywhere now in the like mental wellness, trauma space. But there's a state called overwhelm, which is like, so there's dorsovagal, which is when like you're kind of like meditation, your social engagement system is active, so you feel safe and you feel at peace. And then there's like dorsal vagal shutdown and overwhelm. So I'm going to read it to you. The overwhelm state. The overwhelm state occurs when there is a bouncing between the sympathetic mobilized state, like the fight or flight, and the dorsal vagal immobilized state at the same time. So there's like the dorsal vagal calm, called stillness state, like you're socially engaged, you're calm, you're at peace. And then there's like the fucking, we are shut down here and we can't do anything. We need to immobilize because we are afraid of anything and everything, and we need to just shut it down. So emotions include the feelings of hopelessness, despair, and panic. And I definitely lived a lot of my childhood in that overwhelmed state, which is very unfortunate. And then I experienced it as an adult, and I still think I'm kind of coming out of it and have improved a lot. But for a very long time, when I had really, really severe OCD when I was 33, I went into this overwhelmed state, and it is very, very tiring and very, very hard to come out of, because I didn't know enough at the time to really understand what was happening to me. And I'm telling you, like, understanding the nervous system and physiology and understanding the brain and how it operates into these protective states and these overprotective states, if you will, is key. And I think a game changer when it comes to working with clients who have this experience, because it allows them to have more control and take more active steps to mitigate this issue. So I would have that thought, and then I would feel literally frozen in my body. And it's funny because I've been able to connect all these dots again lately of like, wow, like how many times have I gone into that state like so fast of like feeling frozen in my body after a thought or during an experience that was my brain was perceiving as ultimately a crazy threat, right? And then the more that happens, and this is why like it is very unfortunate that people don't get diagnosed with OCD even though they've had it for many, many years, because a lot of therapists miss it. Like the average age of getting diagnosed with OCD, I think is in the 30s, but it's up there. Like it's like, wow. Is that these patterns can then continue and just habituate more. And like, if you've ever heard of neuroplasticity, it means that our brains are very plastic and can change over our lifetime. But basically, if you've had it since you're little and you experience it often, like just like anything, you wire that into your brain even further. So it's like, holy shit, you spend all this time, but luckily you can rewire because our brains are plastic. So you can teach your body and give your body that safety and help the brain to be less sensitized to these threats, and just be able to like discern much more quickly what is an actual threat and what isn't an actual threat, right? Because the brain is wired to perceive threats. It's how we keep ourselves alive. But it's just that it's overactive in OCD. So that was one of my first like earliest memories of OCD. And then I look back at some of my behavior and I'm just like, you know, it was the disease of doubt, but I just have these memories of like my dad asking, like saying, I love you, and I couldn't say I love you back. Like I was very concerned with being 100% certain that I was telling the truth. And then I 100% certain loved him. So I'd say maybe I do, maybe I don't. It was like this ultimately obsession, obsessive compulsive disorder, with being moral, with being 100% true. And I remember in college, I just remember saying to my parent, it was like, I'm just a bad person. And like, I couldn't understand where that was coming from. And you know, I was different level of consciousness then. And I think so many people with OCD are like, I'm just a bad person. Like, I have all these fucked up thoughts. And there's so many more experiences I want to tell you guys so that people with OCD can also, again, like, you can see that other people are experiencing this, and even, you know, people that are now treating people with OCD. I think is just very powerful. So yeah, I wanted to share my earliest memories of OCD. There's so many more memories to come. And when I got evaluated for OCD, I was like, holy shit, this thing has been ruling my life pretty consistently since like a young age. And it has been very challenging to sort of come back to life, if you will. Like, again, those patterns were very wired in. And now I can really, really see that. So it's like the farther away you move from that life, that way of thinking, that reality, like the more you can clearly see the way in which it impacted you. And that is a really tough realization, but it's also like, it makes me cry, but it, in a way where I'm like, wow, like you had no idea what reality kind of you were living, and no one was helping you. And for you to live in those nervous system states, like I was very depressed, I was very anxious for the majority of my life, and that is also from childhood experience as well, coupled with the OCD, which again is like, it makes me like, now I'm like, wow, I can honor and really like realize like, wow, I went through a lot, and that was really fucked up, and it was really, really fucking sad. And I can, you know, kind of look back at that little girl and say, you know, I'm so sorry that you went through that, and you really went through that alone. And I think that that's a healing experience for me, even though like my eyes are getting a little teary because I've been thinking about that and feeling through that like a lot lately, of like, okay, you went through so much. Like, it's like, oh wow, like new things keep coming to light, right? And it's like, okay, take the hand of that little girl and say like, wow, I'm so sorry you went through that alone. I'm so sorry you had no one to help you. I'm so sorry you were so scared. I'm so sorry your body experienced that much fucking stress. And last thing I'll say is, you know, as someone that has kind of pursued CrossFit athletically for a few years, not so much right now, it's like, as in people with like a lot of athletes have like, whether it's OCD or something else, like I think it's honestly part of like the drive in a certain sense of like being an athlete. But it's like, imagine all the ways in which like having a more flexible nervous system and being able to really perceive threats, because I was under constant threat basically all the time. Like, how stressful was that to my system? Like, how limiting was that for really you know, maximizing my athletic abilities? And, you know, it's not like it was like that 100% of the time. Like, there's definitely times in my life where I was in flow. And I think that's why being an athlete and working out has always been so healing for me, is because it has created a lot of presence. And when you're present, you're not going to be having these same responses to OCD. But yeah, it was hard. And it's like, now it's just realizing how hard it was. And it's like a weird thing to experience. But I think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to the things that I'm going to say in this series. So I hope you'll join me as I talk more about the nervous system and internal family systems for OCD, as well as tell you about my experiences more so. But anyways, yeah, I think I trailed off there, but like a lot of the athletes, I think, experience stuff like this. And it's scary too, because you're like, you know, OCD can be that just right. I need to get everything just right. My body needs to feel just right. I would experience a lot of that in the gym. Again, I'll elaborate that further in other episodes, but that like seeking perfection, like it's about, you know, gaining control, every fucking ounce of control you can find, so that you can ultimately feel safe in your body. And all it does is reinforce your lack of feeling safe. And yeah, that's pretty gut wrenching and heart wrenching when you think about it. So it can also be scary when I want to work with athletes, because I think it can be scary to like let go of those parts of ourselves that are like kind of like, for lack of a better term right now, like the slave driver in a sense. You know, we feel like we might lose our edge. And I've definitely gone through that experience as well, of like, I feel like I'm losing my edge because I'm not succumbing I'm living off of stress hormones and adrenaline all the time, and I'm not in constant states of fear. So I'm kind of experiencing that process now, and I'm kind of letting it play out in my athleticism because like I just had no choice. Like I had to step back. My current coach knows about my OCD experiences. Like, you know, I need to have a more flexible nervous system and see where that takes me. And yes, it does feel like sometimes I'm losing my edge because I was addicted to stress hormones because my body was constantly under and flooded with fucking stress all the time. And that's why I was exhausted, but I was so wired that I could maintain that. And there comes a point where you crash, and I fucking crashed. And I wish I knew sooner because maybe the outcome wouldn't have been so fucking devastating, or the crash wouldn't have been as hard. But that is my life story, and I guess, you know, I'm here now, so there's nothing else we could do about that. But yeah, more to come on that. Way more intrusive thoughts to share. And I'm laughing because honestly, sometimes it's like so fucking ridiculous. Like some of them that you don't enmesh yourself with or are able to easily like disentangle yourself. Like there's some intrusive thoughts where I'm like, LOL, that's funny. And then there's some where obviously the brain perceives it as more of a threat because maybe I consider it to be more true, right? Or like that I'm capable of it, you know? So there's a lot at play. But anyways, starting there, it's a good place, I guess, to end it for now. You know, comment below if any of this resonates for you. And yeah, we'll talk soon.